Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. Very cool guest today, Bethany Joy Lenz, who came to fame in the hit TV series One Tree Hill. But what happened to her off-screen is more dramatic than any TV show or movie she's appeared in. Her new book, Dinner for Vampires, Life on a Cult TV Show, while also in an actual cult, is out now, and it is fantastic. Bethany recounts the years she spent involved with, okay, I got to put this in quotes, the Big House family, a religious sect led by a man named Les, who manipulated her and stole $2 million of money she earned. Okay, so much to unpack here. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. That's a great intro. Thanks so much.
There's a lot to discuss. Okay, so you've written quite a book. It's dark and clever, and by the way, beautifully written.
Thank you.
Okay, but first of all, what do I call you? Bethany Joy, Joie, the French version? Because you go by a few names in the book, and I don't want to screw this up.
I do. Well, yeah, everybody calls me Joy. All my friends that knows me by Joy. But yes, when I was younger, when I was 13, I decided I would no longer be Joy. I was going to be Joie. I loved everything that had to do with France and French culture and thought it would be fun to change the spelling of my name. And that stuck till I was about 20, but eventually changed it back. So you can call me Joy.
Great. Thank you. And you can call me Mel, which is what all my friends call me.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay. We're going to dive right in. For people who have not yet read the book, let's go through the basic timeline. You grew up in a very religious family that moved around. You went to New York to become an actress, ended up on Guiding Light, and left the church your parents were affiliated with because they disapproved of you being on the soap. Then you moved to LA to find work, and while you were there, you met a woman named, I'm checking my notes here, Mina, who invited you to a Bible group.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. You nailed it. We're good.
Okay, we're good. How were you raised? I mean, in this very religious family.
I actually wouldn't say it was a particularly religious family where there was a lot of structure around religious routine and expectations. It was more of it felt like more of a spiritual environment. And there was an undercurrent of religious expectations, I think, that perhaps my parents weren't even aware of, because it really is the underbelly of so many modern evangelical, charismatic, non-denominational churches.
Right.
That there is this, on the surface, it looks like it's real kind of granola and very open and fluid, but underneath it, there's still this expectation of you have to perform all of these things in order to be accepted by God, in order to get approval. And so I think there was, even though that those things may not have been explicitly explained to me, there definitely was an underbelly of that for most of my life. So, I mean, to answer your question, I was raised by two people who loved me very much and who loved each other, but had a real tempestuous relationship, because there was a lot of addiction and codependence in the lineage of my family, and they were just dealing with their own stuff, as you do at 22 years old, which is how old my mom was when she had me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine?
No.
So
no.
Right. Yeah, so they're trying to figure out their own shit, and I'm an only child, and we're moving around a lot, and I've gained a sense of independence and a sense of I've got to look after myself in a way, and for better or worse. And there were some good things and hard things that came out of that, but I tried to kind of figure out my own way a lot. So I think when I entered into an environment where I found some people at this Bible study you just mentioned that I really loved and got along with, and I felt a synergy and a commonality with them, I was so used to listening to my own voice, my own inner voice, and that I really didn't take the advice of my parents, who were like, we think this is a cult.
Yeah. So people who have not read the book, I got to ask, as an actress, here you are struggling in New York, you get the soap, and instead of everyone being excited, they disapproved. How disappointing was that? I mean, that had to be a really hard moment because two important pieces of your life suddenly collided and did not mesh.
Yeah. I think the strangest part of it was that there were so many people in the congregation and even in church leadership, and the church that we had found ourselves at uh, in New Jersey, which we were there for probably, I don't know, 5 to 8 years. Um, there were so many people who were really congratulatory and how's work going? And we're so proud of you. And it's amazing you've got this big grown up job in the city. And oh, Joy's an actress. And so there was this whole element of like, we're proud of you, we're impressed by you. But then it was also, you can't be standing up on stage and representing Jesus to the congregation because you're involved in something that's a little bit tawdry and like soap operas, there's
Yeah.
people who are not married, sleeping with each other, there's affairs, there's murder, there's like all
Yeah.
of these storylines going on that if you're acting in that, I think it will confuse people if you're up on stage singing songs with the worship team and trying to lead people into a prayerful moment with God. Won't they be confused? And at 16, that made no sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me, but I objectively understand it more now because I have a better understanding of religion, I think. But
Well, you're also an adult.
yes, yeah. But
You're also an adult.
I was just like, this is so strange. And how could you congratulate me, but then also ask me to remove myself from any position of leadership? And does that mean that I'm no longer spiritually effective? Like I can't share God's love with people because of my job? And like, it was very confusing.
So you moved to LA
Yeah.
and you meet Mina. How did you meet?
We met through a friend, a mutual friend, and we became roommates. And she was a lovely woman. And I write about in my book this moment that we met when I went to go visit her as she was packing up her stuff to leave a job that she had had for a while. And we just became really close really fast. She was a kindred spirit.
How long had you been in LA when you met her?
I met her, I think it was either a few weeks before I moved out because I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I just met someone for lunch and she turned out to be someone that I wanted to be roommates with, which was very convenient. So it was very, very quickly.
How did the subject of religion even come up? I mean, that's some pretty deep stuff to be talking about and personal stuff to be talking about with someone you pretty much had just met.
Is it? I don't know. I think like I've always been kind of I have a hard time with small talk. I don't know if it's the ADHD. I don't know if it's just that I grew up with my dad in particular, who is a very philosophical thinker and challenged me in conversation. So I have a longing for depth in conversation with people. And I've always had a hard time with small talk and surface conversation. So for me, diving into meaningful topics that, like, I mean, it's the most important thing what you believe about God as a concept, as a being, whatever, informs every other avenue of your life and how you behave in every other avenue and how you behave toward other people. And that's something I've known from a young age too. So for me, diving into that was really easy. I don't remember how it came up other than we both knew that from our mutual friend, we both had the same faith. So it probably came up pretty fast.
Yeah, not wanting to have deep conversations in our business is not always the easiest task.
True. No, it's so true. I mean, that's the introvert in me. It's why I always felt uncomfortable in so many of those environments.
So how did you get involved in the Big House? And just kind of explain to people what it is, because on the surface, it didn't look culty.
Well, I don't think that it was in the beginning. I think in the beginning it really was a lovely group of people, young people who um, were creative and saw art and storytelling as a means to be able to share love. There's this the God of our understanding, this sort of cosmic love that we all seek and feel and long for. Um, we wanted to be able to understand it deeper and grapple with questions and really challenge each other. And so that was great. And I think that's not just in Christianity, that's in a lot of religions. That's also I know groups of people who are well, not groups, I shouldn't say. I know people who are even atheist, but still desire to have those deep conversations with other friends at dinner parties and stuff. So it wasn't something that was strange at first, but I think the perfect storm of so many of us being young and in Hollywood and making money, and the majority of us were women, that after 6 or 7 months, we had established a friendship that felt pretty healthy. But then this guy, Les, as you said, came in, this pastor from another state, was invited in to just be like a guest speaker, and saw this perfect combination of naivete and money and power, and took advantage of it. And
How did
that's
it,
when it really started to shift.
how did he do that? Because you're all smart, successful, like you said, mostly women. And
Yeah.
suddenly, someone charismatic comes in
Yeah.
and starts to chip away at all of you. How did he do that? Did he go after your sense of self-worth? Did he tap into, I'm here for you? Because with you, he really he worked the protection mode. I will
Yeah.
protect you. I will help you make decisions, and became very much a father figure. Did he target everybody individually?
Yes. So, I mean, this really is what the book is about, is explaining the slow burn of how this kind of manipulation works, because it's not an overnight thing. It's not like he
Mm-mm.
walked in the door and was like, I know what to do here. Let's roll up our sleeves and dive in, and everybody's going to listen to me now. Um, there were, I think there were two things that were really meaningful in the way that he was able to accomplish this kind of manipulation. The first is, there was a woman who was a mother figure in the group that we as young women all really longed for, the kind of motherly love that she presented. And her validating this man created an immediate safe space with him for us. If he had just come in, we might have been like, well, we don't really know this guy. But there was somebody that we already really trusted who was vouching for him. And so she had this sort of soft, gentle, maternal vibe. And he comes in and he was charismatic, but it wasn't in an obvious way, which I think was really important for the group of, because it was a group of actors and entertainment professionals, and particularly for actors. If you're a good actor, your bullshit detector is really strong. You can tell if you're in a
Mm-hmm.
scene with a person who's faking it. And it was harder to get, I think, taken by that sort of used car salesman charisma if you're a good actor, and because you're used to it, you're used to seeing bad acting, and or feeling it, doing it yourself, and then knowing how to get out of it. And so his ability to be really self-effacing, very pretend humble, um, almost quiet and shy at times, it felt really endearing. And it felt like he really only opened up when he was around people that he felt safe with. And so when you see a leader who seems someone you really look up to, who's in not so many words is telling you you're a safe place, that's really powerful, especially as a young person. You're like,
It makes
wow, I
and it makes you feel special.
Yes, someone that I respect thinks I'm safe enough for them to let their guard down and just be real with me. That's so what a compliment. I want to that's endearing. That really draws you in. So those were some of the major setup points. And then as time went on, and again, that's really what the book is about, is
Yes.
explaining, because the whole thing is people go, I would never get sucked into a cult. That's crazy. And I wanted to really show people, let me just tell you a story. Like, step one, would you have been okay with this? And I think most people would say, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? Yeah, I would have been fine with that. You say, okay, step two, what about this? Would you have been okay with this? Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see myself being okay with that. Yeah, I was that young. Yeah, sure. And so it's step by step until suddenly you turn around and you're 10 years in. But
Yeah,
the chipping away of self-esteem.
it's a slow roll.
Exactly. It's the chipping away of self-esteem slowly. It's all the same top notes of narcissistic abuse, the love bombing, the deterioration of your self-esteem, by devaluing you, and then being the person to be able to lift you back up, and then isolating you. But it all happens real slowly. It's not all at once.
He really worked on isolating you.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was a big one. And it
Which is so
really,
crazy because I was in a 9 months out of the year in another state.
right.
Like that's a heavy lift.
Yeah. I mean, but it was very much isolating you, especially from your parents and your tight inner circle.
Yeah.
Um, how did you explain to your parents, like, hi, I need to give this more space? Or did you just say, I'm not, I can't imagine, you're very thoughtful. So I can't imagine you just said, you're out of my life. You know,
No, I
it's not
certainly
like
didn't.
Scientology where they're like, you're out.
Right. Right. Um, it felt it did feel a lot more thoughtful. It felt more like I was learning boundaries. So, okay, I imagine I've got this woman who's a mother figure and this man who's a father figure. So now I've got these sort of spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual parents, and they are presenting themselves to me as uh, a safe place to grow up in a way that I never was able to in my own house, because as I said, there was a lot I felt like I had to raise myself because my parents were dealing a lot of their own stuff. Um, and please don't, that's not to discredit them. They did many wonderful things as parents, but this was a gap in my rearing. And they recognized that gap, said, we can step in and help raise you. Let us teach you things you didn't learn as a child. Boundaries. Here's what boundaries look like. So the irony that they're teaching me how to have boundaries, quote unquote, with my natural family, like my actual parents, while subconsciously demanding that I have no boundaries with them, that they are able to walk all over and infiltrate any area of my life that they please, uh, is pretty astounding. But I was 20. You can't see that kind of stuff when you're that young.
No, no, that's one of the things that you only learn with mileage.
Yes, I love that term. Oh, that's good. I'm going to use
Yeah,
that.
mileage.
Yeah.
It's just that's part of it. Because I look like your mom had you at 22. I look at my son who's 23. Oh my God, there is no way he could be a parent.
They're babies.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I don't
and
know
but
how
yet
people did it in the past, because that was
but
really common, like
but they
having babies when you're that young.
yeah, but they did. Okay, so you were already pretty deep in when One Tree Hill came along, and you were like,
Yeah.
Not sure this is for me. Why?
About the show, what I
Yeah,
thought, oh yeah, yeah, I did. I write about this experience in the book, and that I had just come off. Well, I was a musical theater kid, and I loved studio movies and musical theater. That was my world, and I wanted to be a part of real art. And TV at that time, as I'm sure you remember, in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was no crossover.
no,
If you were a movie star, you never went to TV, unless you were Julia Roberts doing Friends, which
right.
even that was still pretty later on, I think, on the show, wasn't it? Maybe,
But
but
people would who they were. I hate to say friends, but who people actors that were friends. Sometimes one would pop into one of their shows
yes, yeah,
as a wink and a nod. and
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
fun week of being together. It wasn't, no, movie stars were not doing TV and TV stars were closed out of movies.
No, for sure. You just absolutely could not. It's I think it's the reason somebody like Carrie Russell never had a huge film career. She's a spectacular actress. Couldn't stop looking at her. And for some reason, it's like she was kind of brought up in TV right in that pocket when you just weren't allowed to cross over. The powers that be were like, no, it's little box fame versus big box fame. So I thought, look, I want to do Broadway and West End, and I want to do movies. I don't the quality of work that I see on TV, I don't want to get into a loop of doing procedurals or soaps and things like that because it just wasn't, as an actor, it wasn't what lit me up. Um, and so I said no. I turned down the job because I felt like I was going to get stuck in TV, and I didn't trust that trajectory for my career. And then it came back around, I don't know, 6 months later or something. And I had had some moments within the group where it's funny. I'm thinking about, like, looking back on that, I wonder if there was intentional, it probably was some kind of intentional manipulation on Les's part to knowing how much money was in TV.
I mean,
It's so
you
much
talk about
more.
him pushing you to take the role.
Yeah, so much more in TV. And so but I think also I was trying to be more open to and not be so staunch. It's such a hard thing to figure out when you're young and you're trying to cultivate a career, like what to say yes to and what to say no to, and when do you stick to your guns and say this is my vision, and when do you say just say yes to every job and trust that one's a stepping stone to the next thing. I don't know. But anyway, I wrestled with that for a bit and came back around to, okay, I'll take this job. Let's see what happens.
How did you end up giving him control of your money? Because you're smart.
Yeah.
Because you're
Thanks.
smart. Where was your
I
age? Where was your agent to say, or your business manager to say? Because I would assume your agent would be watching the money like a hawk.
I'm sure my agent did. Do not remember that conversation, but he is a very smart person, and I would credit him with having made that effort. Um, the only real overture made toward me in that regard was my business manager at the time, who I was Altman Greenfeld Salvaggi. They're like the best in New York, and I was with Frank Salvaggi, like he was so good, and I remember him and Anthony Bonsignor, my other guy, who was like, they were like, Joy, this is strange. Like, why are you doing this? This is a random. Okay, so wait, let me go back. This was after I got married, so we're halfway into me being in the group now. It's about 4 years in,
And to
and
fill people in, you married someone in the
I
group.
mar- yes, I married into the group, and so I married the leader's son. It's in the book,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I got married, a very traditional Christian thing to do is merge your finances, and probably a lot of secular people do this too. I think
Yes, they
that's
do.
another conversation. Another conversation, and
Never
I'm sure it's
commingle
great.
your funds.
I don't know. Look, I know a lot of people who do it.
Never.
They feel like it's super healthy. It creates a lot of
Of
unity in the
course.
marriage. A lot, like that's great. Whatever you do, you. But um, I was doing it out of obligation and this sense of religious obedience, and so I merged my finances. And he really wanted all of our money to be managed by this cockamamie financial group that and the mother figure Pam had formed with another member of the group who had some minimal experience in finances. They formed a financial management group to manage several of the businesses that were created within the group. And so I said yes after a lot of arguing. And this is where reading the book is more helpful to see it in the chronological order, because you can really grasp the sense of, I hope you can really grasp the sense of entanglement, that it's not just I get married and my husband says let's merge our finances and let these guys take care of it. It's day by day of constant arguing about money. Every time I spent money on something or went shopping or the Amex bill came in and he didn't like the charges on it. And these were not massive charges. It was like I might have spent $300 at J. Crew one time. And it's like these are I was working on a TV show, I was making a lot of money, and I wanted to have some nice dinners and I wanted to buy some nice clothes, but I wasn't
Right.
out on Fifth Avenue every weekend. Um, those constant berating arguments that took hours and so much energy out of me. And that's how emotional abuse works. It's days on days on days on days on end until finally you're so exhausted. You're just like, fine, what can I do so that we don't fight anymore? So that you don't keep getting mad at me? Tell me what to do. Well, let's just have my family manage the money. Fine. You guys take charge of the money so I don't have to keep being exhausted and feel horrible and crying every day about arguing with you about everything. And it took a big burden off of our shoulders. And to be honest, it felt like the marriage got a lot better for a substantial amount of time simply because we weren't arguing about money all the time.
So
It was an
very often,
illusion.
yeah, very often, especially on ensemble type shows like One Tree Hill, the cast becomes very close.
Yeah.
And cast members are saying to you, this something's not right. And you
Yeah.
ignored them, which is all part of the mental manipulation.
Yeah.
At which point did you say, this isn't right? There's something very wrong with this situation. How did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah. It's hard to get there when you're really in a certain mindset. Um, I mean, I think anybody could find someone in their life, even ourselves, like the things that we really believe super militantly. If somebody keeps coming to you over and over and over and saying, there's something wrong with what you believe, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, you either decide the friendship is important and I want to hear you, or you decide, I don't want this person in my life. You're annoying me and I don't want to examine what I believe. And I know what's right and wrong, and I'm going to stop hanging out with you. So that's the place that I was in. And it took years. It was really hard. So there's really nothing anybody could have said to me that would have made me hear them when they said something's wrong. And it had to happen naturally, which for me was when I became a mother. Um, and I've spoken about this before, just getting back in touch with my gut instinct in a way that I had been ignoring for a long time to keep the peace. Nobody can tell you at 2 a.m. what your baby needs. You know it. You just feel it and you know it, and you try the different things until you figure it out. And that's how you get to know the baby. That's how you get to know each other. That's how you know what the cries mean and what the whimpers mean and what the smells mean and like all of it. That's just it becomes part of your instincts. And as I became more refamiliar with my instinct in that manner, it opened up a door for me to trust myself small ways at first, but with other things like things I would hear Les preach on in church, or the way that he would advise us to communicate with other people in the group, or things when I would hear him talking badly about other people in the group. Whereas before I might have kept convincing myself, oh, he's confiding in us. This is family venting and confiding, and this is a safe space. Now I was like, my gut is telling me this is wrong. I shouldn't have information about my friend over here that they don't know that I have. That's triangulation. And then I would say it like, could you not actually, I would rather not hear it. I don't want to know things about people that they don't know that I know. And he would get upset. And so then I'm like, why is he getting upset? Isn't that a Christian thing to do, to say no gossip? You're a pastor. Why are you upset with that? And it was a slow untangling of all those things that eventually started to really make me aware. Okay. something's off. Something is really off.
So you decide to leave, you divorce your husband. What is your relationship with your husband, your ex-husband now?
Well, everything I've wanted to say about him, I've said in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hope people take away from that is that I I think he
I mean, I had to co-parent, and it's hard enough when you don't have that outside pressure of a cult and you leaving. I mean, that's a fucked up dynamic to deal with.
It is a lot. It's a lot. And that's something that I navigate that privately. But I don't think he's a bad person, and I think he was raised in a really bad environment personally. And I don't even like saying that because I just would rather not say anything about him. But
It's
yeah,
hard.
it's
Co-parenting is
hard.
hard.
It is. It is.
So you're still very close.
Yes,
with your
my daughter.
Well, no, you're still close with your daughter, but with your One Tree Hill co-stars.
Oh, yes.
I was pivoting to talk about the podcast. I'm super glad you're close with your daughter. As a parent, I'm like, thank goodness. But I was pivoting into giving a good plug about the podcast.
Plug away, darling. Go for it.
Thank you. With Sophia Bush and Hillary Burton Morgan, you have a podcast called Drama Queen. So explain what the podcast is about.
The podcast is about One Tree Hill and about our experience behind the scenes. We do a rewatch and then we talk about the episodes, and really started out as a way of reclaiming some hard memories. We all had a really hard time connecting while we were on the show, and it wasn't just because I was in a cult. There was a lot of the same kind of narcissistic manipulation happening from the top down on that set as well, which I dive into a little bit in the book. And it was a way of reclaiming that so that we could. It's so hard to have all these memories that we didn't know, I think, emotionally where to put in our body. And how do we reconcile the fact that we have millions of fans who love the show and love our characters, but we've got a bad taste in our mouth about all of these memories? So how can we process through them so that we can actually really enjoy our memories as well? And I think we've done that.
Did they get an advanced copy of the book and go, holy shit?
Yeah, there were a lot of surprises for a lot of cast members. I think people really, they knew that I had been involved in an abusive environment, a group abusive environment, but nobody really knew the details because it takes a book to explain all the details. And there's still a ton that I couldn't even fit in the book that I just had to, put on the cutting room floor. But yeah, a lot of surprises, a lot of surprise reactions.
Yeah, when you're editing a book or anything, we always refer to it as killing your babies. Because
kill your darlings. Yeah.
Yes, there's stuff you're like, no, and your editor's like, gotta go. And you're like, okay.
So true.
So you have a lot going on. You've got your single, Strawberries, because you really are also a singer-songwriter. That is available now. You have your book, Dinner for Vampires, out now. Hard print newspaper, Modern Vintage News.
Yes, I have that too. Do I have a copy of it? I do somewhere. It's a broadsheet newspaper. Yeah.
Fun. How do we get that? Online?
That's online. It's modernvintagenews.com. And you can follow us on Instagram too. And there's a shop on Instagram. I think I have, hold on a sec. Oh, I do have a paper. Here's one of the
a visual.
Oh yeah, I'll show you so you can see. I mean, I don't know if this podcast ends up online, but
it does.
Here's the newspaper. It's totally an actual broadsheet. You can spread out and get comfortable and big and take up space, because women have been conditioned to hunch over and read like this for so long. And I like the idea of like a woman opening up and taking up space.
What's it about? What's in the paper?
I think it's best categorized as a lifestyle newspaper, but it is very artistic and very thought thought-provoking, critical thinking driven. The idea is to reinvigorate critical thinking outside of the algorithms that are conditioned to pop up on our phones. We're really trying to broaden perspectives and lend voices to all different viewpoints and perspectives, just so that you can take the time in your own brain to decide what you think about something rather than just fed things.
The art of critical thinking has gone very much away.
It has. That's part of my mission, is to reinvigorate that, and with the book as well. And I've got a single coming out. We're just working on the artwork right now, but it's called
Strawberries.
Flesh and Bone is a new one. It's coming out in a couple weeks, I think. You probably don't have that on your.
No, I do not. But I have. Do you want to see how long your list is of things you have going on?
That's so funny.
That is significant. So we have Book Dinner for Vampires out now. Latest single, Strawberries, available now. New single coming soon, Flesh and Bone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
hard print newspaper, Modern Vintage News. Your podcast, Drama Queens, with Sophia Bush and Hillary Burton. And follow you on Instagram at Ms. Bethany Joy Lenz.
When you say it like that, I'm like, oh my God, wait, maybe I shouldn't be writing a musical and a novel, and also making my daughter lunch and taking care of the dogs and training my new dog. And
well, because you've got so much free time, clearly.
Why do I think there are more than 24 hours in a day, Mel?
We all do.
Are you that way too? Do you just have a million things on burners?
Of course. And by the way, all the pots boil at the same time.
Right?
And then you're just face down at your desk going, please, God, help me. I'm always like, I'm so grateful for all of this, but if there is an entity, could you just spread it out through the year so I don't have moments of complete and total breakdown going, I'll never work again? Could you, all I'm asking for is just, could you spread it throughout the year instead of everything in 1 month?
I know, I agree.
Anyway, it has been an absolute joy to talk to you and to meet you. The book is fantastic. We need a sequel.
Thank you. It's so great to talk with you as well. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.